The Princess and the Engineer. The recycled air of Orion Station always carried a faint metallic tang, something you never quite noticed until you came back from planetside. Technical Officer Elias Mercer didn't mind it anymore. After 5 years aboard this aging rust bucket hovering at the edge of human space, he'd grown accustomed to its quirks. The flickering lights in Junction 12, the strange groan from the waste recycling system during night cycle, and the way the artificial gravity occasionally hiccuped when maintenance crews were working on the power grid. "Come on, you stubborn piece of junk," Elias muttered, elbow-deep in the guts of a malfunctioning environmental processor. The unit had been acting up for days, randomly altering the temperature in the diplomatic quarter from comfortable to either sauna-like or refrigerator cold. Not exactly the best impression for the foreign dignitaries who occasionally passed through. His comm unit crackled. "Mercer, how's that processor coming along?" It was Chief Engineer Takumi, his voice tinged with the distinctive stress that came with preparing for VIP visitors. "Almost there," Elias lied, wiping sweat from his brow with his sleeve. "Just needs a bit more persuasion." "Well, persuade faster. The Asturian delegation arrives in 20 minutes, and if their quarters drop below 60 degrees again, we'll have an interstellar incident on our hands." Elias rolled his eyes. The Asturians evolved on a desert planet. They'd probably appreciate the cooler temperatures. "Just fix it, Mercer," Takumi sighed before cutting the connection. Elias returned to his work, muttering under his breath about diplomatic protocols and the absurdity of rushing repairs to impress aliens who probably didn't care about human temperature standards anyway. He was so focused on reconnecting a particularly stubborn coupling that he didn't notice the approaching footsteps until a shadow fell across his tools. "Is it always this difficult to maintain your station systems?" asked a melodious voice with an accent he couldn't quite place. Elias didn't look up. "Only on days ending in Y. If you're looking for the observation deck, take the next junction and—" The words died in his throat as he glanced up. Standing before him was the most captivating alien he'd ever seen. Tall and slender with iridescent indigo skin that seemed to shimmer under the harsh station lights. Her eyes were large and almond-shaped, shifting between silver and violet as she tilted her head. Delicate crystalline structures that might have been hair or perhaps some kind of sensory organ cascaded down her back, catching the light like liquid diamonds. But what truly marked her as someone important wasn't her exotic beauty. It was the 4 stern-faced guards in gleaming armor flanking her, their posture screaming royal protection detail to anyone with half a brain. Elias scrambled to his feet, nearly smacking his head on the open access panel. You're not supposed to be here. This section is restricted during maintenance." The alien woman's mouth curved upward, revealing teeth that reminded him of polished pearls. "Is that so? Then perhaps your station should improve its signage." One of the guards stepped forward. "Your Highness, we should continue to your quarters. The human technician is clearly busy." "Your Highness?" Elias felt his stomach drop. This wasn't just any Asturian. This had to be Princess Nalara, daughter of Emperor Zalen II, rumored to be touring human territories to strengthen the recent alliance. And he'd just been completely disrespectful. "I'm sorry, Your Highness," he said quickly, attempting a bow that probably looked more like a spasm. "I didn't realize." "Please," she raised a hand, the gesture somehow both regal and casual. "There's no need for that. I find it refreshing when someone speaks to me normally." Elias straightened, not quite sure how to respond. The princess was studying him with open curiosity, as though he were some fascinating specimen in a laboratory. "You're fixing our environmental controls?" she asked. "Yes, Your Highness. There's been some fluctuation in the temperature regulation. Should be sorted soon." Her eyes sparkled with interest. "How does it work, your environmental systems?" Elias blinked in surprise. "You want to know about station maintenance?" "Is that strange? Most royal visitors aren't interested in the inner workings of our life support systems, no." Princess Nylara moved closer, peering into the open panel with genuine interest. "On Asteria, Our environmental systems are biological, engineered organisms that naturally regulate temperature and air quality. Your mechanical approach is quite different." Before Elias could respond, another guard stepped forward. "Princess Nylara, Ambassador Threll is waiting to brief you before the reception." The princess sighed, a surprisingly human gesture. "Of course he is." She turned back to Elias, something unreadable flickering across her features. "What is your name, technician?" "Elias Mercer, Your Highness." "Well, Elias Mercer, I hope we meet again during my stay." With a final curious glance at the open panel, she glided away, her guards closing ranks around her. Elias stared after her, the environmental processor momentarily forgotten. What had just happened? His comm crackled again. "Mercer, temperatures dropping in the diplomatic suite again." Elias snapped back to reality. "On it, Chief." By the next morning, the entire station was buzzing with news of the Astorian royal visit. Elias tried to ignore the excited chatter as he made his way to the mess hall for breakfast, but snippets of conversation kept reaching his ears. "I heard she's here to choose a political marriage. Alliance with the Draconids is falling apart. Bringing an entire fleet with her?" Elias grabbed his tray of synthesized eggs and what passed for coffee on the station, finding an empty table in the corner. He'd just taken his first bite when a shadow fell across his tray. "So," said Juno Alvarez, sliding into the seat across from him, her dark eyes sparkling with mischief. "Word is you had a little chat with the most eligible alien princess in the quadrant." Elias choked on his coffee. "How did you?" "Station security feeds," Juno shrugged. The head of Orion's cybersecurity division had an uncanny ability to know everything that happened on the station. "Not every day we get royalty stopping to chat with maintenance workers." "She was just being polite," Elias muttered. And I'm just saying that the betting pool on which species she'll choose as a consort just got more interesting." Juno grinned wickedly. "Humans weren't even on the board until yesterday." Elias rolled his eyes. "You're delusional." "Speaking of delusions," Juno nodded toward the entrance, "your admirer is back." Elias turned, coffee mug freezing halfway to his lips. Princess Nylara had just entered the mess hall, her guards creating a perimeter around her as confused station personnel scrambled to their feet, unsure of the proper protocol. Her crystalline hair-like structures seemed to glow under the mess hall's fluorescent lighting, and her silver-violet eyes scanned the room until they landed on him. The entire mess hall fell silent as she made her way directly to his table. "Officer Mercer," she said with a smile that sent a strange flutter through his chest. "May I join you?" Juno kicked him under the table. Yes, I mean, of course, Your Highness." Princess Nylara gracefully took the seat beside him, as Juno excused herself with an exaggerated wink that made Elias wish the station would experience a sudden catastrophic decompression, just in his section. "Is this normal?" Elias asked quietly, acutely aware that every person in the mess hall was staring at them. "For royalty to eat in the common areas?" "No," Nylara said simply, examining his breakfast with interest. "But I find diplomatic quarters stifling. What are you eating?" "Supposedly eggs. In reality, probably some protein compound engineered to vaguely resemble eggs. Station food isn't exactly known for its quality." "May I?" Without waiting for permission, she took his fork and sampled a bite, her expression shifting from curiosity to something between surprise and horror. "This is interesting." Elias couldn't help but laugh at her diplomatic response. That's one way to put it. Her eyes crinkled with amusement, and for a moment she seemed like any other person, not an alien princess whose decisions could affect multiple star systems. "Your Highness," one of her guards approached, looking distinctly uncomfortable. "Ambassador Threll is requesting your presence for the preparation of the trade negotiations." Nylara's expression fell briefly before she composed herself. "Thank you, Captain Merrick," she turned back to Elias. "It seems my duties call." "Of course," Elias nodded, unsure why he felt disappointed. She stood, then hesitated. "Would you be willing to show me more of your station later? Not the diplomatic sections, the real parts where people actually live and work. Elias stared at her, aware that the entire mess hall was still listening. I'm on duty until 1800 hours. 1900 hours, then. I'll meet you at observation deck C. Before he could process what was happening, she was gone, leaving him sitting alone at his table with a half-eaten breakfast and the weight of 100 curious stares. Well, said Juno, sliding back into her seat with a grin that threatened to split her face, that happened. The rest of Elia's day passed in a blur of repairs, system checks, and dodging increasingly personal questions from his coworkers. By the time 1900 hours approached, rumors had spread throughout the station that Technical Officer Elias Mercer had somehow caught the attention of the Asterian princess. This is insane, he muttered to himself as he stood waiting at observation deck C, having changed from his work jumpsuit into the least wrinkled off-duty clothes he owned. She's probably not even going to show up. But at precisely 1900 hours, Princess Nylera appeared, having somehow slipped away from most of her entourage, except for a single guard who maintained a respectful distance. You came, she said, sounding genuinely pleased. Did you think I wouldn't? Diplomatic visits tend to be predictable. People either avoid me entirely or perform elaborate displays of respect while showing me exactly what they think will impress me. She stepped closer to the viewport, gazing out at the stars. No one ever just talks to me. Elias joined her at the viewport. What would you like to talk about? She turned to him, her eyes reflecting the starlight. I want to know about you, your life here, what it's like to be normal. Normal? Elias laughed. I fix things that break on a decrepit space station at the edge of human territory. I eat synthetic food, sleep in a cabin the size of a closet, and occasionally get to look at the stars. Not exactly the stuff of legend. It sounds wonderful, she said softly. Elias studied her face, trying to determine if she was mocking him, but found only sincerity in her expression. Why? Because it's real, she sighed, turning back to the stars. My entire life has been choreographed since birth. Every decision, every relationship, every word carefully calculated for political impact. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Even this visit has a purpose. I'm supposed to be evaluating potential political alliances, possibly including marriage. Elias felt a strange twist in his gut at the word marriage, but kept his expression neutral. And that's not what you want. What I want has never mattered, she said simply. For the next hour, Elias showed her around the less glamorous parts of the station. The hydroponics bay where engineers were experimenting with growing fresh vegetables. The recreation room where off-duty personnel played holographic games. Even the maintenance corridors where the station's true workings were visible. Nylera absorbed everything with genuine fascination, asking questions about how systems worked and how people lived. For a brief time, it almost felt normal, as if she were just another visitor to the station rather than a royal dignitary. Thank you for this, she said as they made their way back toward the diplomatic quarter. For treating me like a person, not a political asset. It's been enlightening, Elias admitted. You're not what I expected. Oh, and what did you expect? I don't know, someone more. Regal, aloof, condescending toward humans. All of the above, he smiled. She stepped closer to him, their faces inches apart. And what do you think now? Elias felt his heart racing. I think you're... A station-wide alarm suddenly blared, cutting him off. Red emergency lights began flashing throughout the corridor. What's happening? Nylera asked, her guard immediately moving to her side. Elias checked his comm unit, his blood running cold as he read the alert. Unidentified vessel has just dropped out of FTL near the station, heavily armed. He looked up at Nylera, whose expression had grown serious. They're demanding to speak with you. The princess closed her eyes briefly. It's Prince Vorax of the Draconid Alliance. He's come to claim what he believes is rightfully his. And what's that? Elias asked, though he already suspected the answer. Nylera's eyes met his, filled with a mixture of resignation and defiance. Me. Hearts across the stars. The command center of Orion Station hummed with tension as Elias followed Princess Nalara through the doors. Station Director Harlow, a stern woman with steel-gray hair and the perpetually harried look of someone managing a floating city in space, stood before the main view screen. The massive display showed an imposing vessel hovering less than a kilometer away, all sleek angles and predatory lines, its hull adorned with the distinctive crimson and black markings of the Draconid Alliance. "Your Highness," Director Harlow said, turning to acknowledge Nalara with visible relief. "We've received repeated communication requests from the Draconid vessel. They're insisting on speaking with you immediately." Nalara stepped forward, her posture transforming before Elias' eyes. Gone was the curious open woman who had walked the maintenance corridors with him. In her place stood royalty, spine straight, chin lifted, eyes coolly assessing the threat on the screen. "Open the channel," she commanded, her voice carrying an authority that made several officers straighten reflexively. The screen flickered, and a reptilian face filled the display. Prince Vorax of the Draconid Alliance was everything the rumors claimed: imposing, with scale-like skin the color of burnished copper, gleaming yellow eyes with vertical pupils, and an elaborate crest that rose from his skull like a living crown. "Princess Nalara," he purred, his voice a rumbling bass that seemed designed to intimidate. "How fortuitous to find you among these humans." The way he pronounced humans made it sound like a particularly unpleasant disease. "Prince Vorax," Nalara replied evenly. "This is an unexpected interruption to my diplomatic mission." The Draconid prince's mouth stretched into what might have been a smile, revealing rows of serrated teeth. "Diplomatic mission? Is that what you're calling your flight from responsibility? Your father promised your hand to strengthen our alliance. Yet here you are, hiding in human territory." Elias noticed Nalara's hands clench slightly at her sides, though her expression remained impassive. "My father discussed possibilities. No agreements were finalized, as you well know." "Semantics," Vorax dismissed with a wave of his clawed hand. "The Asterian Empire needs the Draconid Alliance, especially with the Voidborn expanding their territory. Your father understands this necessity. You should as well." Director Harlow stepped forward. "Prince Vorax, Orion Station is neutral territory under the Galactic Accord. If you're here on diplomatic business, we request that you follow proper protocols and dock at—" "I do not recognize human authority," Vorax interrupted, his crest flaring with irritation. "My business is with Princess Nalara. She will return with me to finalize our union, or there will be consequences." The threat hung in the air, as subtle as a supernova. "Is that a declaration of hostile intent against a station under Terran Federation protection?" Director Harlow asked, her voice dangerously quiet. Before Vorax could respond, Nalara stepped forward. "I will meet with you, Prince Vorax. Allow me 2 hours to prepare. We can discuss this matter privately." The Draconid's eyes narrowed suspiciously. 2 hours. The communication ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. "Your Highness," Director Harlow turned to Nalara, "with all due respect, we cannot guarantee your safety if you board that vessel." "I have no intention of boarding his ship," Nalara replied, "nor do I intend to be forced into a political marriage." She turned to Elias, who had been trying to blend into the background. "Officer Mercer, I require your assistance." Director Harlow raised an eyebrow, looking between them. "Officer Mercer, he's a technical officer, not security or diplomatic staff." "Precisely," Nalara nodded. "He knows the station better than anyone, particularly the sections not on official schematics, and Prince Vorax will never suspect I'd trust a human with my safety." Elias felt all eyes in the command center turn to him. What exactly are you asking me to do?" Nalara's eyes met his, determination burning in their violet depths. "Help me disappear." 90 minutes later, Elias found himself leading Nalara through a service tunnel that hadn't been used in years, their path lit only by the dim emergency strips along the floor. "Are you sure about this?" he asked over his shoulder. "Once we do this, there's no going back. You'll be defying not just Vorax, but potentially your father's wishes too." Nylara's crystalline hair structures glimmered faintly in the low light. My father wants what's best for our people. He believes that means an alliance with the Draconids, but he's wrong. Their empire is built on conquest and subjugation. They view alliances as a form of ownership. And what do you want? Elias asked, stopping to help her over a section of damaged flooring. Her hand felt cool in his, her skin smoother than human flesh but firm with hidden strength. I want to choose my own path, to form alliances based on mutual respect, not fear or domination. When she looked up at him, her eyes seemed to glow in the darkness. Is that so revolutionary? For royalty, probably, Elias offered a small smile. So this plan of yours, you really think it'll work? It has to. She squeezed his hand briefly before letting go. Vorax is arrogant. He'll never expect defiance, especially from a delicate Asturian princess, as he likes to call me. They continued through the maintenance tunnels until they reached an unmarked junction. Elias activated his access code, and a hidden panel slid open. The old security hub, he explained, as they entered a small room filled with outdated monitoring equipment. Decommissioned during the last system upgrade, but Juno kept it operational as a backup. We should be able to monitor the situation from here without being detected. Nalara approached the screens, watching as Juno's hack gave them access to the station's security feeds. On one monitor, they could see the diplomatic docking bay where Prince Vorax had just arrived with a contingent of Draconid guards. On another, Ambassador Threll from her own delegation was frantically searching her quarters. Your diplomatic team doesn't know where you are either, Elias asked, setting up the communication relay. Threll reports directly to my father, she explained. He would feel obligated to protect me by returning me to Vorax's custody. Elias nodded, understanding her isolation in a new light. Okay, Juno should be in position, ready to make your statement. Nalara took a deep breath, straightening her posture. Ready. Elias activated the comm system they'd rigged to broadcast to both the station and the Draconid vessel. Channel open. This is Princess Nalara of the Asturian Empire, she began, her voice clear and commanding. I address this message to Prince Vorax of the Draconid Alliance, to the people of Orion Station, and to my father, Emperor Zalen II. On the monitors, they could see heads turning throughout the station as her voice came through every communication system. In the diplomatic bay, Vorax had frozen mid-stride. I will not be returning with Prince Vorax. No alliance can be built on coercion or threat. The future of the Asturian Empire lies in cooperation with those who respect our sovereignty, not those who would claim ownership of our people through forced marriage. Elias watched the monitors as Vorax's expression darkened dangerously, his guards reaching for their weapons. To demonstrate my commitment to genuine alliance, I have placed myself under the protection of the Terran Federation. Any aggression against Orion Station will be considered an act of war not just against humanity, but against the Asturian Empire as well. It was a bluff. She had no authority to make such a declaration, but it was delivered with such conviction that Elias almost believed it himself. Prince Vorax, you have 1 hour to depart from Terran space. This is not a negotiation. Elias cut the transmission, turning to Nalara with newfound respect. That was impressive. A small smile played at her lips. My first act of true defiance, how did it feel to watch? Terrifying, he admitted, also a little awesome. The moment of triumph was short-lived. On the security feeds, they watched Vorax rage at his guards, his clawed hands gesticulating wildly. Then he stilled, his expression changing from fury to calculating calm, a transformation far more worrying than his anger. That doesn't look good, Elias muttered. No, Nalara agreed. He's planning something. They didn't have to wait long to discover what. Within minutes, alarms blared throughout the station as the Draconid vessel powered up its weapons systems. He wouldn't, Nalara breathed, eyes wide with disbelief. Attacking a Federation station would provoke not just humans but half the galactic powers. Looks like he doesn't care, Elias responded grimly as the first impacts rocked the station. He activated his comm unit. Juno, what's happening? Juno's voice came through, breathless and tense. Draconids fired on the external sensor array, precision hit, took out our early warning systems. They've also launched some kind of boarding pods. Security teams are mobilizing, but we're looking at a full-scale invasion. Elias looked at Nalara, whose face had paled to a lighter shade of indigo. This is because of me, she whispered. No, Elias shook his head firmly. This is because Vorax is a power-hungry tyrant who can't handle rejection. You're not responsible for his actions. Another impact shook the station, harder this time. Warning lights flashed across the security monitors. We need to get to engineering, Elias said, already moving toward the door. That last hit was too close to the main power core if they damage the containment systems. He didn't need to finish the thought. Nalara nodded, following close behind as they exited the security hub and hurried back into the maintenance tunnels. The journey to engineering was harrowing. Through service corridors and emergency shafts, they navigated the increasingly damaged station. Twice, they had to detour to avoid sections where hull breaches had triggered emergency lockdowns. The sounds of fighting echoed through the ventilation systems, energy weapons discharging, shouted orders, occasional screams. When they finally reached the engineering deck, they found chaos. Several technicians lay injured while others worked frantically to stabilize systems. Chief Engineer Takumi stood at the main console, his face illuminated by flashing red warning lights. "Mercer," he shouted when he spotted Elias. "Where the hell have you been, and why is she with you?" His eyes widened as he recognized Nalara. "Long story," Elias replied, quickly assessing the damage displays. "Status report. Power core containment is holding, but barely. They hit us right where it hurts, targeting systems we'd flagged for upgrade but hadn't gotten to yet." Takumi wiped sweat from his brow. "If they breach the coolant systems, we're looking at a cascade failure." "What can I do?" Nalara stepped forward. Takumi looked skeptical. "With all due respect, Your Highness, this isn't really. I understand Asterian biochemistry interferes with Draconid sensor technology," she interrupted. "My presence might confuse their targeting systems enough to give us an advantage." Elias and Takumi exchanged surprised glances. "She's right," Elias realized. "The crystalline structures in Asterian biology, they emit a frequency that disrupts Draconid tech. That's part of why they've been trying to forge an alliance instead of just conquering Asteria." Takumi looked thoughtful. "If we could amplify that signal through the station's communication array." "We could blind their weapons systems," Nalara finished. "But it would require direct integration with your technology." "You mean?" Elias stared at her. "Yes," she nodded solemnly. "I would need to physically connect to your systems." Takumi shook his head. "That's insane. The biofeedback alone could kill you." "Do we have a choice?" she challenged. Another explosion rocked the station, and a new set of warnings flashed across the displays. The Draconid vessel was preparing for another, more concentrated attack, one that would likely breach the power core. "How would we even do this?" Elias asked. "The neural interface in medical," Nalara explained. "It's designed for cross-species emergency care. With modifications, it could transmit my biological signature through the communication system." Takumi looked dubious but nodded to a technician. "Get Dr. Okafor up here, now." What followed was a frantic race against time. While Draconid boarding parties fought their way through the station's defenses, Elias and the engineering team worked to modify the neural interface. Dr. Okafor, the station's xenobiologist, provided crucial guidance on how to safely connect Nalara to the system without causing her permanent harm. "This is extremely dangerous," Dr. Okafor warned as she prepared to activate the interface. "Your Highness, you need to understand, no Asterian has ever attempted direct neural connection with human technology. The feedback could cause neurological damage." Nalara sat calmly in the modified chair, crystalline filaments from her hair already connected to the interface ports. "If we do nothing, everyone on this station dies. The choice is simple." Elias stood beside her, concern etched across his features. There has to be another way. She reached out, taking his hand. Sometimes the only path forward requires sacrifice. Isn't that what makes a leader? He squeezed her hand gently. Just come back, okay? Her violet eyes met his, something unspoken passing between them. I will. Dr. Ockhaffer initiated the sequence. Nylara's back arched, her eyes widening as the connection established. The crystalline structures in her hair brightened dramatically, pulsing with energy that flowed into the station's systems. On the monitors, they watched as the signal propagated through the communication array, expanding outward to envelop both the station and the attacking vessel. The effect was immediate. The Draconid ship's weapons systems faltered, its precision targeting dissolving into random, harmless fire. On internal sensors, the boarding parties suddenly seemed disoriented, their coordinated assault breaking down into confusion. It's working, Takumi exclaimed, watching the readings with amazement. But Ilias' attention was fixed on Nylara. Her face contorted in pain, blue-tinted sweat beading on her forehead as the interface drew more and more energy from her. Warning indicators flashed on Dr. Ockhaffer's medical monitor. Her neural activity is spiking, the doctor warned. We need to disconnect her now. Not yet, Nylara gasped through clenched teeth. The signal isn't strong enough. On the tactical display, they could see the Draconid vessel attempting to recalibrate its systems, fighting through the interference. Nylara, please, Ilias urged, his formal address forgotten in his fear for her. You're killing yourself. Her eyes found his, determination burning through the pain. Trust me. She closed her eyes, her entire body tensing as she channeled more energy into the signal. The lights throughout engineering flickered as power surged through the communication array. On the monitors, the Draconid vessel suddenly went dark, all systems shutting down simultaneously. Complete system failure on the Draconid ship, Takumi reported, excitement in his voice. They're dead in space. Disconnect her, Ilias ordered, already moving to help. Now. Dr. Ockhaffer worked quickly to sever the neural connections. As the last link disengaged, Nylara collapsed forward into Ilias' arms, her crystalline structures dim and lifeless. Nylara, panic gripped him as he cradled her still form. Dr. Ockhaffer. The doctor rushed forward with a scanner. She's alive, but barely. Her neural pathways have experienced severe trauma. We need to get her to medical immediately. The next hours passed in a blur. With the Draconid threat neutralized, station security quickly rounded up the stranded boarding parties. Director Harlow, displaying the diplomatic skill that had earned her command of Orion Station, negotiated a ceasefire with the crippled Draconid vessel, allowing them just enough power to limp home, their reputation tarnished by their failed attack. And through it all, Ilias remained at Nylara's bedside in the medical bay, watching for any sign that she might wake. You should get some rest, Dr. Ockhaffer told him gently on the third day. We'll alert you if her condition changes. I'm staying, he replied simply. It was near the end of the fourth day when Nylara's crystalline structures began to glow faintly once more. Her eyelids fluttered, then opened, revealing violet irises clouded with confusion. Ilias, her voice was barely a whisper. He was instantly alert, leaning closer. I'm here, you're safe. Her lips curved into a weak smile. The station. Safe too, thanks to you. Vorax and his ship are long gone with their tails between their legs, as the human saying goes. She tried to sit up but winced, falling back against the medical bed. My father.